Odofo John Dramani Mahama the near bree pan concerning Galamsey na ekoso Ghana no. Yes, ube kai se NDC fo mpanyifo mienu a etitrifo pan mienu a information beto dwa se omu eye Galamsey a sisi ya no John Dramani Mahama the directives aba se ye omu twihwe mu sisi ya enimnim ya na se omu hu ba asema ana se ekopa se omu hu bon sa nsem nimu ana se nokre so omu ye Galamsey pan dia sa NDC fo mpanyifo mienu we pan etitrifo pan no John Dramani Mahama si yemfa kweduo kese pan efambo omu tese emra kwan ya sefato omu no yemfa omu fa so because yesi John Dramani Mahama any ye the ministers and appointees for na meeting akachi omu se on pese any of them so we minister we DCU we MCU we denyu once a John Dramani Mahama we na appointee ya wafa I was at 2025 and beyond amemu we no yesi any kwan se ode wo share Galamsey activity biemu nti John Dramani Mahama wa friend mpanyifo nyina na appointees fo nyina the ministers fo nyina abom kokko so mo bia emfa ne ho enko for Galamsey enye saade a yeso mu dia waso be ehye nti si amene okasa no saa ne mpanyifo mienu NDC fo mpanyifo mienu ya yachi omo se omo ya Galamsey yesi ye omu hwehwemu na se koba se no kropan dia ye bechi omo na ye di omo asempa na chese omo ti anye yi a insawo prison na omo kwakodarofo wenya me mase na make am John Dramani Mahama nansani spokesperson eye Felix Ofosu-Kwakye na wakwako pim wo program asiye kese pan all this information we nyina ba beto abontin se Ghana fo nyina omuntie no monhwe no muhu ade a John Dramani Mahama oye wo Jubilee House ho dey fight Galamsey den do fo manko ne ko jisanse mo nyina nchim Ghanatube nema isia.
So that I come in at this point. It was useful that all the other panelists had their bites because then it crystallizes the issue. So we know exactly which one is responsible. You see, the first point is that there has been a narrative, which is quite worrying in recent times, that all the gains we've made in gold production and sale and the foreign exchange receipts thereof have come about because of an upsurge in Galamsey. You see, that narrative does not provide any credible evidence to back it. For the avoidance of doubt, there is no government policy to purchase gold from Galamsey. What it is that over the period, for the decades that we've mined gold, there has never been a system to trace where it comes from. But purchase from large-scale mining firms, represented by my friend Ken here, and small-scale mining firms are all lawful. Because small-scale mining is a lawful activity. Sometimes we speak as though it is coterminous with Galamsey. It is not. The state of Ghana made laws and allowed for small-time players to participate in the extraction of gold. And after it makes sense. We cannot have a situation where, invariably, because of the financial might and skill of external gold producers, they are the ones that dominate our markets. We cannot have a situation where Ghanaians are prevented or stopped from also participating. But of course, they must meet certain standards that does not impinge adversely on the environment and in the long run affect us. So the law allows for small-scale operators to operate. The state of Ghana cannot only purchase gold from large-scale producers because they also, as part of the agreement, are allowed to market their own gold. And therefore, there is nothing wrong with government buying gold from small-scale miners. Because we have not had a system to trace it, one cannot exactly tell if some elements within the illegal mining fraternity also find their way in there. It is for that reason that through law, a body has been put in place called Gold Board. I was in Parliament when we sat through the night to approve the Gold Board bill. And part of their mandate is to ensure that illicit gold does not get into what we export. In fact, it is in our own interest that the global community does not perceive us as selling gold that comes from illegal miners. Because mind you, and I'm sure Ken is aware, there are many watchdogs. In fact, only last week, about 2 days ago, I received correspondence from a group of foreign journalists who track these things and have sent us questionnaires to answer specific questions relating to the source of our gold and all that. Now, if we get negative publicity as to the source of our gold, the gains we are making in the international gold market will collapse precipitously. The LBMA has what they call the good delivery list. You must get onto that list to market your gold in a way that benefits you. So it is not in anybody's interest. It's not definitely in Ghana's interest or the government's interest to go and purchase gold from Galamsey. But these things are traced. There are all manner of sophisticated technologies that they can use to trace where the gold comes from. So I think that the blanket statements that are being made, that we are buying gold from Galamsey, and that is why we are having an increase or an upsurge in gold production and sales thereof, must be limited, and it must be based on absolute facts. The other issue too that I need to raise is that in all of this, political will is important. And Alfred, I can tell you with absolute certainty that President Mama is intrepid in the fight against Galamsey. Indeed, both publicly and privately. He has told everybody in the NDC that as far as he's concerned, nobody is too big to fall in the NDC government or in the NDC party if they get involved in Galamsey.
I see.
And I repeat, he says nobody is too big to fall. It is the reason why very high-ranking officials in our party, our vice chairman and our organizer, these are powerful people within the scheme of things in the NDC. When the president heard about allegations or claims that they were involved in some activity relating to Galamsey, he ordered the Attorney General to commission an inquiry. That inquiry is ongoing. The Attorney General briefed all of us only last week's Friday, when we held the CSO engagement, that even beyond the initial claims that had been made against the two gentlemen, he has received further allegations, and that he is broadening the scope. And I can assure you that once that investigation is completed, if it is found that in fact the allegations are true, action will be taken. Again, since 2022, we have known of the existence of the CID inquiry into the matter relating to Chairman Wontumi. I know his lawyer is here. So, of course, he has the right to defend his client to the hilt, and he can accept his client's innocence. We as a state must accept that, so that a lawful judicial process is used to determine. So I'm not going to sit here and pronounce anybody guilty. But at least Ken and his colleagues in the CSO space and exactly, in fact, do know of the existence. Do know of the existence of this CID inquiry, which has been there since 2022. And you know that when the Akunta mining issue came up, the president of the day publicly cleared Wontumi. He said that I asked him he said that as far as they were not engaged in any wrongdoing. Meanwhile, at the same time, the CID had compiled a report on the basis of the allegations that had been made. The current Attorney General has been bold enough to prepare a docket based on the CID's investigation, and it's from the basis upon which Mr. Wontumi and 2 or 3 others have been charged only last week. There is talk about going after kingpins, but they don't come bigger than people within the political space. And so if a president comes to power and he has a will to launch inquiries into both persons in his party and persons outside of his party who are alleged, and I use the word advisedly, to be engaged in Galamsey, it is an indication that there's a departure from the past when the tendency was to defend the party's interests. So we also do know that Galamsey has existed for decades. When Martin mentioned his dalliance with Galamsey in his youthful days, it is only an indication that it's something that has existed. The scale on which it was being done was not necessarily harmful, so we didn't pay much attention. We were using precautions, so these are desperate young people wanting to make a quick buck to fend for themselves, so they go and dig here and there. It wasn't a problem. But over time, some greedy, selfish, criminal elements found out it was a way that they could make quick money. And so they invested, recruited people, gave them sophisticated equipment. In the last 8 to 10 years, this has festered. There was not significant action or the mastering of political will to deal with it. We have the Frimpong Boateng report, for instance, in which a whole minister for the environment, who the president tasked with addressing Galamsey, says that there were government officials, there were party officials, there were high-ups in society who were involved in this operation. Even that report was concealed for many years until it was leaked towards the 2024 elections and became an issue. Mr. Frimpong Boateng is heard on tape saying that elements within his political party had approached him, that Galamsey was a major source of financing for his party, and therefore they should be allowed to engage in Galamsey. We didn't see significant action being taken. Indeed, when we came to power, the situation was so dire, and I understand why there were heightened calls for a state of emergency in the run-up to the 2024 elections. Look, the situation was so dire that armed bandits, terrorists, and Kofi alluded to that, that if we get to a situation where these elements engage in Galamsey, resort to the use of arms as a way of fending up the state, then we are in trouble. In fact, we got to that situation just before the previous government left office. Because there were 9 forest reserves that were controlled by bandits and terrorists. We also do know that there are foreigners involved in this. Indeed, the NIMOS operation which you highlight, the one that arrested the Chinese nationals. That same day, they also stormed Esipon.
Yeah.
There was a company that was engaged in mining, but 9 months had suspicion that their operations necessarily were not in line with lawful procedure. So they questioned them. They found some Burkinabes. So 9 months has actually given them a few days to produce whatever permits or licenses they have. Failure.
The Burkinabes, they do the cyanidation.
Yes.
They bring them
failure to do so is going to, in fact, 9 months has actually seized their excavators, pending the production of relevant authorization to do so. But I was making the point that the situation that Kofi alluded to, we got there before the government came to power.
Interesting.
Now those 9 forest reserves have been taken back, and you notice that when we did that, some elements tried to go back. Immediately they were apprehended. So again, an issue has been raised about whether or not the state is projecting power. In the only last Tuesday.
No, before you go there,
yes.
You see, Kofi makes a point about, for instance, if you are in the community, NIMOS, fine. But there are DCs and MCs
I'll come to all of that. I'll come to all of that.
Chair the security councils.
I'll come to all of that.
Why are you not holding them responsible?
I'll come to all of that. I think the president who is willing to go after his vice chairman and his organizer and other big people in society has no fear dealing with MCs that he has appointed.
So those, where this is happening.
Listen, if evidence ever emerges of the complicity, what Kofi calls benign negligence, and active involvement of MCs, DCs, regional ministers, or any form of government official, the president would act.
To the extent that this is happening, it takes 9 months to even go.
No. You see,
so does that mean
we must understand what is happening. We have spoken about the allure of good and how powerful it is, and the money is involved.
Yeah.
Being human, it is not unusual for people to be compromised along the chain. So in fact, if you follow 9 months carefully, the way that they operate so that there are many people on the ground where they operate who are unaware of their operations before they strike. In fact, there's a funny video that the head of 9 months, Kenabua, shared with me, where there was a gentleman engaging, or there was a group engaging illegal mining somewhere in the Upper West region. When he led the team to storm the place, the gentleman said, "Oh, Babasa, at least inform me that you were coming." Whereupon he ordered the immediate demolition of all structures and the leveling of the sand that they are heaped to refine another. So it shows you that in the past, there were people who were leaking information to them on the operations of anti-Galamsey task force. So now 9 months strikes, sometimes they don't involve people on the ground. Again, let me put it on record. I think it was a Martin who made the inquiry.
Yes.
That we know everywhere that there is Galamsey operations. In fact, I have seen the 9 months operational documents. I'm not permitted for security reasons to disclose some things. The way they are operating, they have capacity to hit every point
at the same time.
Well, it doesn't even have to be at the same time. It doesn't necessarily need to be at the same time. No, it doesn't necessarily need to be at the same time. It just has to happen within a reasonable time frame. And they have the capacity, and they've mapped it out, and they will do it. Ken raised the issue of a timeline when the president met the CSOs. It is something that governments are aware of. I have a fair idea, and it's been discussed, as to when we will see very significant improvements in what we are doing. But you know that in this business, you need to hedge a bit sometimes, so that you don't overcommit yourself and create expectation that you are not able to meet and then generate further credibility crisis. But I can assure you that there are timelines, and the way that 9 months is going, if they go that way within reasonable time, we will have a handle on this thing. The other issue too is that I was in cabinet only last Tuesday. 2 things happened. Approval and direct authorization was given by the president for the immediate procurement and distribution of vital logistics. When we said that we were going to convert the river body, the area along the rivers where Galamsey is affecting us, into security zones and the forest reserves, every bit of that word was met.
Right.
So tents, sophisticated equipment, heavy weapons, everything is being procured as I speak to you.
Order for when a Chimukesia, if a John Dramani Mahama Nakachi, a Mamonim say, or Nansani spokesperson, a Felix Ufusukwachi, and all this I share when you know if you jubilee how John Dramani Mahama. Yes, John Dramani Mahama, the near breed din power of fighting Galamsey power to the core. Order for yes, John Dramani Mahama had a strong warning at the Aquaman ministers, and appointees near DCs or MCs. Yes, who Nimina say, Chesawa John Dramani Mahama, na appointee, now the one Koshe Galamsey Mua, or Snasi Yesu Muse Chia. Yes, John Dramani Mahama, a catcher and call for the say. Say, ye chill, so ye Galamsey, O friend mpo anya de befa call. Enya de John Dramani Mahama befa call or say o friend mpo anya de befa call because onim say o ba be friend say na be ya odina no beto asem no mudabi or say nya de ya odi obi an ho beche no. Enti no make sure say on fa ho nkofo for Galamsey wonye sa ye chill dia on ho beche yi pa sisi ameno kasa no the vice chairman of the NDC any organizer of the NDC no omo ho chiro omo ye omo hwehwe mu dendenden na koba se omo ho ebon sansem na omo ka concerning Galamsey ni dia ye de omo nyina akoto nsawo modofo we na e breaking news abeto dia mso be di nyina bro e Ghanatube mo refi se be like na ma subscribe na ma share na notification bell so ma say na be ya bring ya bibia dope content say ya wo na me no kasa no wonya ne tempa na hwe we modofo aha na be de nsem nia besi Ghanatube so makram nyina medamu nyina si bebre